Welcome to Microcap Moments, a podcast from Shore Capital Partners that highlights the stories of founders, investors, and leaders who have taken on the challenge of transforming ideas and small companies into high-growth organizations. The journey of building and scaling a business takes one down many unexpected paths. It's a journey where we learn from our mistakes, fall down often, but have the entrepreneurial grit to pick ourselves up and persevere. Within this series, we will share these stories of success and failure, of the challenges and the rewards faced by those who dare to dream big. And through their lessons learned, we hope to inspire others who are on a similar journey of becoming, growing, and leading.
In this episode, I talk with Jimmy St. Louis, the Chief Executive Officer at Agentis Longevity. This podcast is a follow-up to an episode from a year ago when Jimmy was just launching Agentis. You can find that episode titled Unlocking Longevity, Redefining Health and Wellness anywhere you get your podcasts. While the first episode focused on the vision for the platform and what it was like just getting things started, here Jimmy shares his lessons learned from the first year of Agentis. He talks about building his team, developing his relationship with Shore, and investing in deep partnerships across the longevity market. Jimmy shares insights about how he and the team are developing those partnerships for the long term, and how they think through which partnerships make the most sense for Agentis in terms of timing and sequence along their strategic plan. As you will hear, Jimmy has learned a lot in his first year, and it hasn't always been easy, but his passion for Agentis and his belief in their ability to positively impact healthcare and improve people's lives is stronger than ever. Well, welcome back, Jimmy. I'm really glad to touch base with you again after a year. We were here last year and hear how the business has grown and what you've learned along the way.
It's great to be back and certainly have learned quite a bit. Feels like it's been 5 years, but it's been a fantastic year so far. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Will you start just for the audience by introducing yourself and telling us what you do and where you do it?
Sure. My name is Jimmy St. Louis. I'm the CEO of Agentis Longevity. We're a longevity healthcare provider, largely focused on acquiring other longevity healthcare businesses, sharing best practices, expanding services with the goal of driving the standard of care in longevity health.
And what is longevity? Just for someone who hasn't necessarily heard that term, has heard it and hadn't thought much about it, how do you define longevity?
I define it as where length of life meets quality of life. And I think from a healthcare consumer perspective, that's the best way to focus on it is how can you not just age gracefully, but age in a manner where you can still live life to its fullest. And then as we think about from an overall healthcare perspective, we found this market to be relatively fragmented, meaning each provider or professional out there might have had a slightly different way of delivering that care. So it's our goal to go out there and find those that are doing certain things really well, share those best practices, and over time drive that standard of care through the understanding of best practices and the ability to grow those.
And last time we talked, you were just getting things started. Give us an update on the last year, what it looks like to be in the CEO seat from the jump. What's the last year been like?
Sure. Well, I can tell you there has not been a single bad day. It's been nothing but fun, excitement, highly motivated. We're a mission-driven organization guided by our values, and we're steadfast with those. So we're having a ton of fun doing what we're doing. It's a dream to myself and I believe to my team as well. When we spoke last time, we were just about to finalize our first partnership with 9 clinics up in the Midwest, and that partnership is fully forged, and we're really working with them to understand their best practices to see what can translate over to our other organizations that we are very close to acquiring. We've found a location in Nashville. We're building out the executive team. I believe when we spoke last time, we started to look for that senior finance leader. We were bringing in our chief of staff. We're starting to build up the rest of the executive team, and we're pretty well on our way. We've instituted some platform strategies as well on the sales and marketing front, and our integration plan's built out, and got our first other couple add-on businesses under LOI and getting ready to launch.
That's really exciting. How have you thought about building your team? You're starting from scratch. You had a vision for this platform and where this business could go. How have you approached building your team and getting the right people around you?
So I think that there's the technical aspect of it, and then there's the cultural aspect as well. And the technical aspect, Shore has been an incredible partner from that perspective in terms of aligning on the scorecard, the search, the profile, and really finding just an incredible team thus far. And then there's the cultural aspect, which is extremely important to me. And as I referenced here earlier, being mission-driven but values-led is very, very important. So we're steadfast with our values. The team all knows them front and back. We live them every day. We bring them to life through our Monday morning stand-ups where we award people who brought those values to life. And that's the first thing that new teammates hear and see. And that's really the first thing that the potential teammates hear during the conversations. The other thing that's really important to me, the very first question I ask each potential candidate is, what are your career goals? And then what drives you to want to make a change to Agentis Longevity? And it's my ambition to understand, does what they want to accomplish in their career align with the strategy for Agentis? And when it does, we at least feel comfortable that we can make that next step with them, where now we have alignment, they're mission-driven, values-led. We believe we can also give them an incredible next 3 to 5 years of an experience as well, where they have the chance to grow in their careers and frankly accomplish the goals that they would like to accomplish also.
Just curious, in the process, how have you screened? How have you thought about that values-led kind of perspective as you interviewed undoubtedly candidates who would love to be part of an entrepreneurial journey, who would love to be part of a fast-growing private equity-backed business, who would love to be part of a team with a dynamic CEO? How do you screen for values when you think about that?
We ask people about their ambitions. What are their goals? What drives them? What are their motivators? And then some is through more of the casual conversation during those interviews. Tell me about what you like to do for a living. Tell me about your past career. Tell me about your working relationship. I also believe that I use this legs of the stool analogy quite a bit. And here we are in this chair with 4 different legs of the stool, and you think about those as your values, right? And so when I think about values, I think you never want to deviate from them. And sometimes when one gets a little bit wobbly, that can be a tough place. But when that second one falls out, the bottom falls out and you go crashing to the ground. So as I think about how to align with people who are values driven, I ask them, what are your values? What are your goals? And how do you live those on a day-to-day basis? And I'll tell you, we won't always get it right, but I believe if you lead with that, you'll get it right a lot more than you won't.
Well, and at least you start the conversation and establish that that is fundamental to what this opportunity is going to look like.
That's right.
Which is, right. Set that expectation from the beginning.
This is a business where, in my opinion, it's very personal, right? Our services can apply to almost anybody. Our services can prevent people from undergoing significant conditions down the road and certain ailments and having some really hard health experiences. So to me, I take that piece very personal. And I think because of that, it's also an easy business for people to get behind. It's hard to not really agree with the mission. And so if we have that feeling that certain people don't, to us, it's certainly just not a fit. And that's really the first way that we try to screen our new teammates out.
Yeah. We talk a lot about early stage companies. You're driven a lot by assumptions. And then over time, you validate some of those assumptions. You move on from those assumptions. Obviously, in this environment, you learn really rapidly. Would love to hear you just talk a little bit about the first year with Agentis, some of those things that have been confirmed, and then maybe some of those things that have evolved as you've learned over this first year, as you think about the business, the market, your product offering, whatever it might be.
I would say the first learning experience was more validation that I found the right partner here with Shore Capital. And I could not be more steadfast from that perspective. The lessons learned that they can bring to the table, that's fantastic. There's a blueprint that we can follow during our M&A activity that has been very helpful. The other thing that I've learned is, as we used to say in the franchising business, be in business for yourself and not by yourself, right? And I believe that this partnership with Shore also allows us to be, as I say, a small business with big business resources. So I've really learned to lean in heavily on experience, and that was more from a validation perspective. We found the right partners. The other thing I've learned is, even though we have a very attractive business and we have a lot of individual groups who want to partner with us, M&A is hard. Finding the right ones that aren't not just a fit culturally. We like the services and they have happy patients, but what about the rest of the business and those businesses that are built to last? That's been a big learning experience for me, is how do you build out the puzzle and stage the priorities of future partners? That I think if we do that correctly, that will be one piece of this recipe for success. The other thing I've learned has been the talent at the table. The stakes are high, right? So the talent at the table is just so important that I view everything we do as high stakes. And I know that's not for everyone as well. I would say this is one of the more intense environments I've been in. I love it, enjoy it, and am learning every day how to throttle that pedal up and down to help my team navigate these certain challenging situations. But it's been an incredible year so far, and I know there's a lot more lessons to be learned.
I'm curious, based on what you were describing in the acquisition process, even with a partner who has experience, even with your own experiences, that is just in fact hard. Any surprises as to what you've discovered as key components or key things you're looking for in a partner that you might not have been aware of, or red flags that you've found that you weren't aware of a year ago? Anything on that front that comes to mind?
I've learned that if you find the right partners, they can be incredibly accretive to the overall mission and vision. And specifically what that means to me is the lessons that we can learn from them that we can apply so quickly into the rest of our organization. If we do that correctly, it puts our business on a fast track. So when we spoke last time, we talked about this vision of this honeycomb of services within longevity healthcare. What we didn't know is we would find so many potential partners that do a certain aspect of that honeycomb so well that we can lean in on that. And we can then attract the world-class expert in that particular modality to help drive that standard of care to then expand those services across our entire enterprise. That would be critical to us from an integration perspective. I didn't predict that we would have that ability. I thought a lot of it would have to be homegrown and go out there and seek best in class and evaluate it and measure it, which we still need to do. But that piece has helped us, I believe, accelerate very quickly. The other one is the opportunity to build out our management and leadership team with know-how as well. These are entrepreneurs who have built incredible businesses, and our ability to learn from them has been something that I've been highly attracted to and frankly just have an affinity towards. And very similar to how I spoke about trying to find those new teammates with these sellers or these potential partners, the same conversation is had, which is, what are your goals? How can we align to them? I think our mission's relatively easy to get behind, but the ability to align with them so they can help put our business on overdrive has been something tremendous that I've had the chance to experience as well.
Well, I love one of the things that I hear you talking about is just in addition to the specialization that some of the potential partners that you're finding in the market, but the notion that you're also looking for people to help you build that culture and to bring that expertise to the platform. I think a lot of people probably have misconceptions that if you're being acquired, that the platform figures it already has the right way figured out and you're just going to have to comply with what they do. And what you're describing to me is something more accretive, more not just financially accretive, but knowledge and wisdom and experience and values and all of those things, which I think is a little bit of a surprising answer for what most people are thinking of when you're acquiring in private equity.
I think that each time we are acquiring a business, we're integrating a new culture into our platform. And although we are mission-driven and values-led, that is integral to what we do. We still know we're bringing in other people that did certain things right that also had a recipe for success. And we really respect that. So what we did systematically was just recently, a few months back, we finished up our strategic planning session, the couple-day-long session, ushered and navigated by Shore. They led us along that path. We walked away with this great blueprint. And what we've done with future partners is we've sat down and we've had that same session with them as well, individually. So the first part of that session is we're sharing a lot of our lessons learned and what we believe our North Star to be, so they can understand how they might fit into that. And then we're shifting gears and we're focused on their strategy to integrate into Agentis. And we're giving that amount of time and attention equal to the same respect they were giving us. We're learning about the business. We're seeing what makes it work, what's going well, what's not going well, so we can build out that integration plan where now these partners feel like they're not just plugging into a platform, but the wonderful things that they've done will have the chance to see exponential benefit to the platform and to them down the road as well.
Well, I love that. It's truly defining it as a partnership. It's not that you're just acquiring and consuming and building. It is you're defining a partnership. Here's your strategy. Here's our strategy. How do these things come together to make that more than just the sum of its parts?
That's right. I will tell you, I truly care about the future partners. I develop a deep relationship with them. I care about their goals. I care about their families. I care about what their future has in store for them. And I have such conviction around what we're building that I feel like I have this obligation and this great responsibility to be sure that when they partner with us, not only do they have a great experience, but they also have their dreams achieved. And we can help them on this journey for them to have the same experience as I opened this, which is never a bad day. There may be tough days and hard days, but never a bad day. And they are unwavering in how they think about the decision that they made.
With that in mind, going back to what you said before about just the challenges of getting the acquisition process moving and finding the right partners and then executing through all of that, how have you developed that muscle and repeatable process or key lessons learned in that process that now, when we sit down a year from now, that engine will be running smoother than even it is today?
So my first lesson learned there was a very positive one, which is, as I spoke about caring about these partners, that certainly reflects in their interest to work with us. And we have a lot of people very interested in becoming a part of Agentis. The tougher lesson, and I still haven't learned it all the way, is what's that puzzle piece? How do you time it? How do you stage it? How do you prioritize it? Who fits in where? And when they don't fit in right away, what does that mean for the relationship? And what I have found is that there's a great deal of mutual respect for one another. And we often articulate it in a manner where we say, it may not be a now, but it could be a very short follow thereafter once certain things fall in place. But what we've done for them is we've put in place this constant mentoring as well. So if there were challenges within their business, we're here to help them thrive. When we revisit it in 6 months or a year down the road, we would love for them to be exponentially larger and worth more and happy and thriving from that perspective as well. So I've learned that we're pretty good at developing that top of funnel relationship and caring about them. The other challenges have been, how do you navigate them from the singing Kumbaya all the way to an LOI? And part of that has been, it's tough, right? They sometimes have to hear hard things. I don't love delivering those messages. And sometimes it could be as simple as, I might not have thought about moving a product in that manner that quickly, or you need to prioritize a bit better, or with this partnership, we might suggest a change here or here or here. And that's tough. I've been in that side of the equation many times as well, and I know what it's like, and you have to have thick skin. But I'll tell you, the refreshing piece of all of that is we've never come across one that's offended. We've always come across one that understands there's mutual respect and admiration for one another, and it comes from a place of us caring about them.
Well, and I think that goes back to what you were describing before of just being values driven, right? I mean, if you're leading with values and you're poking a hole in somebody's business that they don't really want to be poked, but they know it's coming from a place of mutual benefit and aspiration, it changes the nature of it.
And collaboration, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I think that there's that mutual respect, admiration. We're aligned on values. We're aligned on the vision. There's a lot of excitement from that perspective. And that last piece of collaboration is so important, where we might give feedback they don't love, and it's perfectly okay to get pushback. And what are we missing there? And okay, you still think about it differently. Explain to me why you think about it differently. And we oftentimes have those aha moments as well. So it truly is a partnership. As I said, to all of them, there is mutual respect, admiration. They've built great businesses, and we're honored to have the chance to be a part of their business and their future as well.
I love what you were describing about even if it's not the right time for a partnership, that you're supporting those businesses and you're wanting to see them thrive, that it may not be for Agentis right now the right acquisition, but that doesn't mean it's not the right acquisition in 6 months or 12 months or so forth. And I don't think I've heard another company with that sort of almost market building mentality. Is that in your mind because of the nature of the market, the relatively nascent nature of the market? It's just what you do and because you care that much about this industry? Just where does that kind of investment and long-term play come from for you?
It is the latter, about really caring about the industry. I believe that this business has the ability to shape and change healthcare in certain aspects where we can help to drive that standard for what longevity healthcare means, not just with great businesses and great practices, but driving clinical excellence, driving what great outcomes actually means, building trust, building credibility, doing it in a scientifically validated, clinically credible manner, and being that leader. We have the ability to do that. This is oftentimes the conundrum that I'm in. I am thinking about this big picture, long-term vision as well. 10 plus years, but we also are in a world where we want to build something incredible in a 4 to 6 year period as well. I will tell you that's been part of my feedback most recently with my partners and the boards. Like, thank you for giving me the latitude and the ability to think out 10 years while we're still aligned on this 4 to 6 year mission as well. So because of that, I know that as we build this over the course of this, what's often termed as a hold period, that there is a next bite of the apple and a next chapter as well. And that runway that this relationship building tactic builds for us will give us an incredible runway down the road as well.
Any insights? You mentioned that it turned out to be confirming this year that you chose the right partner in Shore, but what have you learned from the CEO seat about working with a private equity sponsor and given a 5-year hold period and all of those things? Anything you've learned about that partnership in this year?
Well, I've learned I'm not alone. And being an entrepreneur, it can be lonely. It's tough, right? It's a lot of pressure. I love the pressure. I thought I loved the ability to make independent, swift decisions. And for the most part, that's something that's great. But the ability to sometimes take a quick pause and ask and collaborate with this incredible board and Shore's team in general has been something that's helped me feel almost safer in our decisions. Where if you look at my personality profile, I'm a bit of a risk tolerant person, to say the least. That said, having teammates around the table to say, I hear you, we'll give you the latitude, but just think about it this way. We've been through this hundreds of times. These are lessons learned that we can help you, frankly, operate more efficiently. And so sometimes I believe that as an entrepreneur, you're making swift decisions and you can think, you might run 10 miles for a 5-mile race. And I think what Shore does is they help us to not have to deviate off the path so much where you're running 5 miles for that 5-mile race. And so I've learned to take that pause and collaborate. Same thing with our board as well. We have incredible board meetings that are highly collaborative, extremely productive. We walk away with great recommendations. We prioritize, and I can lean on them even in between board meetings, and they're there to support me. And I think that's a pretty rare situation where I believe in other environments, you might have your financial partner there wearing that financial hat, and there's a place for that. There's a recipe for success. That one wouldn't be for me. This one's more for me where we have that collaborative environment. I've got great people around the table to lend their expertise and to help an Agentis be successful.
Yeah, and you've mentioned Shore prides itself on building great and unique and differentiated boards. You've mentioned the strategic planning process. I know you've taken advantage of some of the talent development opportunities as well. Talk a little bit about how you've approached or any advice maybe you would offer a CEO who's in your position from last year on how to approach all of the things that Shore kind of puts in front of you, doesn't force you to do for the most part, but says, here are all the ways that we can support you. And sometimes that can seem like a lot.
I would say lean in, understand the landscape, and be selective. And what I mean by that is lean in on the opportunities, but understand what all those opportunities are and what the right fit might be. If you think about those resources are available to you. If they weren't, you wouldn't go and actively seek them out. So just because they're there doesn't mean you need to leverage all of them at the same time. And then lean in heavily on the strategic planning process. That usually takes place 6 months to a year after the platform starts. Sometimes that can feel like a long time. I can tell you it's not. And the time that we did it was the perfect time where we had the chance to learn a lot. We built some systems, got through the 100-day plan, which was a great process as well. So we then were able to really understand how to lean in heavily into those different resources. The resources that we have primarily used have been the Centers of Excellence and then the strategy team. The Centers of Excellence, primarily the recruiting function, has been tremendous for us to help build out our leadership team. We have leaned into the marketing functions and the sales functions for very different purposes to help us build out systems, to help us do agency selection, and then on the sales side to help us onboard new sales teammates and help to get them trained and profile them and do all those things. And there's many others that we have had the chance to engage with. I would tell you that if the engagement ever briefly felt suboptimal, it was because the engagement and the timing wasn't quite correct from that perspective as well. So my advice, again, in summary, would be to understand all of the different resources, to lean into the strategic planning process, to prioritize, and then to lean in and leverage the Centers of Excellence where they might be the best fit for the strategy that you are executing on.
As you think about, you had a lot of experience prior to this and a lot of leadership roles. You've had quite a dynamic life that we covered a bit in the first episode. Curious in this year what you've learned about yourself as a leader that maybe you didn't know a year ago.
I've definitely learned the power of words. I've learned to be patient in an extremely fast-paced environment. And I've learned that you need to set the tone and set the pace. And the expectations should be clear of your teammates with that as well. You should, in my opinion, never, ever lower the bar to accommodate for a teammate's ability to keep up. And we have not experienced that, which has been something tremendous. The other thing that I've learned that with some feedback from my teammates that have been very positive is it's important to be steadfast in what you believe big picture values, mission driven, and lock in deep on strategy. But when it comes to objectives and tactics, be malleable. We have smart people around the table. Having conviction is great. You never want to feel like a ping pong ball, but understand we've brought on tremendous teammates with great experience that have different ways of thinking. So to me, that has been I believe, a great lesson learned where I've seen that the team appears to really thrive in that type of environment.
I love that. What's the best advice you've gotten this year?
The best advice I've gotten this year that's been the most productive has been to trust the process. I always had this desire to make a swift, accurate decision and keep a scoreboard on that was a great decision and it's helped the company. But what I have learned is that there's lots of different ways to do it. And I've partnered with a group that's best in class, and it's okay to just trust that process. Meaning sometimes it's okay to just ask and say, I don't just need guidance here. Just tell me what you would do. You're in this seat. You've done it hundreds of times. Tell me what to do, and then help me understand the why so I can really get behind it. And it's been something I've had access to before, so I really learned how to lean in heavily in that. And I also believe that that has really helped to forge tremendous relationships, where I also have the latitude to bring some industry expertise, some specific subject matter expertise to the table, where I have the latitude to run fast and make those right decisions also.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge in this first year with Agentis?
The biggest challenge has been to balance our forward thinking and the faith and trust that we have in our ability to execute with onboarding the right resources at the right time. And having tremendous partners, they help me be a very, very good custodian of our budget, but being bullish and a lot of faith in our plan, I oftentimes know that we're going to execute and it's going to happen. So it would make sense for us to get out in front of the resources necessary to execute on that plan. That's been an interesting challenge for us, where oftentimes now we're ready to go and we can feel behind in resources, but I understand that there's a reason for that. And that's the reason the partners are here, is to help us assess some of the risk and not step in the potholes. So that's been a challenge. The other one has been in the education of all the teammates about the specific industry nuances. One, those industry nuances are moving all the time. Regulatory aspects are moving all the time as well. So I'm still learning how to help the rest of the team navigate around that as there's new reading, new literature. I have the luxury of working with other industry leaders and world-class medical experts to understand where's the industry going, and then that ability to educate the team around me to say, okay, we're all marching in the same direction now. It's been a challenge, and it's a challenge that we're all up for and that we all acknowledge.
What are you most proud of about this first year?
I'm proud of the team that we built. I'm proud of the runway that we have in front of us. I'm proud of us being steadfast with our vision and mission. I'm proud of our team bringing our values to life, and I'm proud of the partners that we're bringing on board.
What haven't I asked that I should have? As you think about your first full year in seat, you think about all you've learned, you think about the challenges you faced, the market. What haven't I asked that I should have asked you?
I would say that I'm a very positive, motivated, high energy person. And part of what I've learned has been to wear that hat of, let's be very clear about the challenges and then also just what hasn't worked. And that's something that I'm learning as well. I know there's certain things that do not work and should not work with a relationship like this. One is making decisions only off of gut feel without collaboration. I think gut is very important. Gut should lead us towards the North Star, but it shouldn't be relied on solely. And that is something that I have relied on in the past, and sometimes been successful and sometimes it hasn't. And that's definitely been a lesson learned from my perspective. The next thing is thinking through the future of this organization and what does the rest of the team build out look like? And I believe that oftentimes you can feel like, okay, we have a roadmap. We're going to hire a chief marketing officer. We're going to hire a chief revenue officer, boom, 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 down the pipe. But what I've realized has been, it shouldn't be that linear. There's strategies that are hard to execute on that we'll do our best to make the right decisions on, but there will be pivots and there will be challenges and hurdles along the way. There could be market indicators, it could be internal challenges. And because of that, it's been an interesting process of thinking 5 years out, but also understand that we don't have all the answers for what this 5-year roadmap would look like.
If you enjoyed this episode, check out our other Microcap Moments episodes at www.shorecp.university/podcasts or anywhere you get your podcasts. Here you will also find our Bigger, Stronger, Faster and Everyday Heroes series, each highlighting the people and stories that make investing in the lower middle market unique. This podcast was produced by Shore Capital Partners, with story and narration by Anderson Williams, recording by Austin Johnson, editing by Real Audiobooks, sound design, mixing, and mastering by Mark Galloop of Real Audiobooks. Special thanks to Jimmy St. Louis. This podcast is the property of Shore Capital Partners, LLC. None of the content herein is investment advice, an offer of investment advisory services, nor a recommendation or offer relating to any security. See the Terms of Use page on the Shore Capital website for other important information.